Oh my God. Every damn day, we move further and further into the depths of fascism. Richest country on the planet, and it's not enough.
U.S. Supreme Court will hear a second round of oral arguments.
Let's see what Leeja Miller had to say about
in the
this.
case Louisiana v. Calais. In that case, the Supreme Court will be presented with another opportunity to further gut the Voting Rights Act of 1965, one of the most important pieces of legislation out of the civil rights movement, and one that attempts to get this country closer to our ideal of a pluralist democracy, an ideal which we've never fully met, but one which the Voting Rights Act helped us move closer towards. Chief Justice John Roberts has been foaming at the mouth for years, eager to have the opportunity to gut the 60-year-old law. Today, we're discussing the case and the devastating consequences that could follow if the conservative justices vote to remove key provisions meant to protect historically marginalized communities from further marginalization. Thank you to my partner on today's video, PDS Debt. Credit card debt sucks. I've struggled with it. I know how stressful and overwhelming it can feel to watch those debts pile up. And it's so hard to live your life under the constant strain of worrying about credit card debt on top of, literally everything else going on right now. And of course, it is the credit card companies that win when you have to keep paying them huge amounts of interest every month. It can feel so good to finally take back control of your life by tackling those big scary debts, especially if you can get a little help along the way. If you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills, you need to check out PDS Debt. PDS Debt provides a service to match you with debt solutions tailored to your financial situation.
How are you on YouTube?
And
Is
they have
YouTube
a team
down?
of people
I got magic, baby.
ready to help you with your debt journey. They understand your
Also, yes, this is a ethical. This is an ethical react and also a recession indicator. By the way, Zach Rar is barking at you is so funny because it's like, brother, he spends every day. I think he's done like a collective total of 8 hours over the past like couple of days just entirely on me. Who gives a Hasan sucks off the YouTube mods? What do you mean?
Specific scenario and will help provide alternative solutions to becoming debt-free. PDS Debt is offering a free debt analysis. It only takes 30 seconds. Head over to pdsdebt.com/Miller to get your free debt assessment today. You'll receive a full breakdown on how to save on interest each month and the quickest way to take care of your debt. There is no minimum credit score required. Whether your credit is bad or fair, they're here to help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and start putting money back where it belongs, in your savings account. PDS Debt is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, boasts hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google, and holds a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. And getting started is easy. Go to pdsdebt.com/Miller to complete your free debt assessment in just 30 seconds to see what options are available to you. Get your free assessment and find the best option for you right now at pdsdebt.com/Miller. Thanks, PDS Debt. Here's what you need to know about Louisiana v. Calais. Louisiana is divided into 6 districts, each with its own representative in the House. In 2022, after the results of the 2020 census, Louisiana redrew its district map, resulting in only one majority black district out of the 6. This despite the fact that fully 1/3 of the population of Louisiana is black. A group of black voters sued and successfully argued that the new map violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, known to be deeply conservative, held in the voters' favor and ordered Louisiana to redraw its map in a way that doesn't conflict with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act.
This guy, Hasan Piker dog collar situation, 97.67% accuracy. This one went crazy. This one went triple platinum, 1.3 million likes.
2024, a new map was drawn. In drawing that map, the Republican Louisiana legislature was worried about the political outcome of the new map, and so worked to ensure that the new districts would strategically align with their political goals, especially with protecting the districts that elected Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and Julia Letlow, a Republican representative with a lot of power because she sits on the House Appropriations Committee. The more power your representatives have in Congress, the more power, at least in theory, they have to take actions that benefit you in the state. So it was in the Republican legislature's best interest to ensure the political safety of those two representatives as they were redrawing the map to comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The new map included 2 majority black districts, kind of snaking through the middle of the state, including the major cities of New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Shreveport, because historical discrimination in housing and white flight from the cities means that most of the black voting age population lives in those major cities, because we still live in a de facto segregated society, because we still exist within the consequences of centuries of slavery and marginalization. And if we look at the original Louisiana map with just one majority black district, you can see how the court reached the
Here, because YouTube is down, don't worry. YouTube is not down for me. I got that special YouTube because I not only control Twitch, but I also control YouTube as well.
Conclusion that this map was, in fact, a racial gerrymander. A racial gerrymander is when a state redraws district maps so as to dilute the vote of historically marginalized groups, usually black voters. They do this through two tactics: cracking and packing. Where possible, you divide up black populations so that they will be outnumbered by white voters, effectively ensuring they can never gain enough votes to elect someone they want. That's cracking. And then you draw a district where as many black voters as possible are included. That's packing. So you confine most black voters to one district, or as few districts as possible, and then ensure that anyone outside that district will have their vote diluted by as many white people as possible. This is, of course, assuming that black voters and white voters vote similarly or as one block, which isn't always the case, but we'll get into that. In the original Louisiana map, District 2 was the single majority black district. That district includes New Orleans and Baton Rouge, effectively confining most black voters to one district and diluting the votes of all the rest. So 1/3 of the population had a voice in 1/6 of the districts. In the new map that was redrawn after the Fifth Circuit said the first map violated the Voting Rights Act, you can see the two districts that are now majority black, which span from Shreveport down to New Orleans. So then non-African American voters sued, saying that now they were being discriminated against because any consideration of race violates the 14th and 15th Amendments, equal protection, and voting rights provisions. Last year, the case came before the Supreme Court and they heard oral arguments. Then, on the last day of their term last year, instead of making a ruling, the Supreme Court announced that they would be rehearing the oral arguments this term, and asked the parties to submit briefing on that constitutional question. As a refresher, the relevant part of the 14th Amendment says no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. And the 15th Amendment says the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. These amendments were passed in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War to explicitly address anti-black racism that had prevented black people from obtaining equal protection of the laws and from having a voice in their representative government. It was definitively not race blind. It was meant to right the wrongs of the horrific, centuries-long practice of human bondage in this country.
This is one of the most annoying aspects of the constant DEI arguments and the constant DEI back and forth, where people just be like, oh, excuse me, these practices are not race blind. Yeah, it's because, you know what was a practice that wasn't race blind? Segregation. You know, the practice that wasn't race blind? Slavery. These are things that are supposed to heal those racial wounds, heal those racialized wrongs. And you can't do that by just taking a race blind approach. It's so stupid. I hate that argument. It's the centrist, it's the most annoying fake centrist, but actually secretly right-wing argument you can have. And it's always the same one that they apply, where they're like, oh, wow, really? We're trying to give black people a leg up much? Well, racism much? That's the real racism. That's the only racism that's like still practiced. And I think like I have to really reconsider my stance on this stuff, because sometimes I forget that there are people who have just been unironically duped into believing that. On its face, maybe it actually works, right? On its face, what is this? Dang, y'all flame me. My bad. No harm, no foul. I'm not a hater, just a truly unsubscribed fan. What do you mean? Nobody's flaming you, man. We know YouTube is down. Not for me, though. Anyway, I do think that there are people out there who are like, if you could have a conversation with them, if they approach you with like charitability, they would understand why the current practices that exist, like affirmative action and whatnot, before they abolished it, or the things that people consider to be DEI, like why those things exist, right? You cannot address a racialized form of violence or discrimination without actually trying to course correct by offering a leg up to the same race that was deliberately kept down. And there are so many additional problems beyond There are so many additional problems right now for Black Americans beyond just like being able to go to college with like potentially lower standards is in the way that people try to claim that that's what affirmative action is. It's very frustrating. I found a lot of people are pretty receptive to learning about just how horrific slavery was. Most people in this country, even in the woke areas, don't actually learn about what slavery really was. Yeah, I think that's what it is. No shade, I want to hear you out. Why turn the Kai thing political? I know this is your space, but it feels inconsistent to claim the situation as a form of marginalization, then mute thousands of chats. Do you think it's marginalization when we're getting brigaded with people? There are some who had reasonable concerns about the one clip that they saw without thinking like, perhaps I'm overreacting to it. Because the clip looks bad for sure, but like I have confidence in Hasan that he's not like a dog user or something. But then outside of that, you know, for the last 7 days, it's just been people coming in here and calling me a Mohammedan dog. Yeah, I think it's okay in order for me to, you know, continue talking about how voting rights are on the chopping block, for example, instead of just pausing the stream and constantly relitigating this shit over and over again. You know, we got to some people. This is not discrimination. It's just
in order to attempt to give the people suffering from the long-lasting negative impacts of having endured horrific, inhumane treatment for centuries some semblance of equality. That is the spirit of those amendments. And the Voting Rights Act was meant to further solidify those rights enshrined in those amendments, because even after the 15th Amendment was passed, many states, especially states like Louisiana in the South, were continuing to infringe on Black people's right to vote through things like horribly unfair literacy tests and poll taxes. None of these laws were meant to be race blind and were instead explicitly meant to fix centuries of abuse and inequality. But of course, white people weren't ready to go quietly into the night and accept that maybe they would have to cede some of their power. So the backlash against the amendments and against the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was swift. And today, the common conservative argument against the Voting Rights Act and protections against racial gerrymandering is that being race neutral and colorblind is the only correct, non-discriminatory stance.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's so goddamn annoying that like the whitewashing, the notion that like MLK Jr.'s legacy was whitewashed across the board, but then they always talk about like, I have a dream that, you know, white and black children will be equal one day, and then they cynically will use that line to say like MLK was also colorblind. Like, and wanted everybody to be judged by the content of the character. Yeah, at a time when Black people are being discriminated, Black people are still being discriminated. A lot of these initiatives that were put in place are Band-Aid solutions to try to overcome that systematic discrimination that Black people faced. This is not me just being woke, by the way. I know that a lot of people, well, maybe not people in this community, but like a lot of people hear me say that and go, this guy's fake. Look at him just saying the right things, you know? But I just have a firm belief, a firm commitment to the notion that every single person, if given the opportunity, is destined for greatness. And we do not unlock that potential for so many people. We don't unlock that potential for those in the global South, and we certainly don't unlock that potential for marginalized communities in the United States of America. A lot of that violence and discrimination is racialized in this country because white supremacy is a fundamental principle in the United States of America. But outside of that, there is also a very distinct class warfare that takes place as well. Rage Chief, thank you. Yeah, this guy literally came in and said, I'm a right winger. YouTube is down big mad. MAGA Rage Watcher here because I can't watch your YouTube stuff right now. Please do some rage bait, please. Rage Chief, thank you. Like, this man is mad that I said, regardless of someone's background, regardless, like whether they're white or black, it doesn't matter. They have tremendous potential. And it's up to us, it's up to governments to basically unlock that potential so that there is like a true equality of opportunity, not an equality of outcome necessarily, but real equality of opportunity, which has never been achieved in this country. And he went, "No, how dare you? I am raging." Respect. At least you know what's up. At least you know what grinds your gears, you know? Hey, I do understand. So does the act guarantee that some districts are black to make sure that black people are represented, or is anti this or what? Cause I do not understand Euro chatter here. Black people have a higher likelihood of voting for the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party, at least historically, has in the last couple of decades, has defended black people's rights. And the process of redistricting basically sections off the black population, like cordons off the black population to as limited a number of areas, districts as possible. So if there's like a big black neighborhood, let's say there's like here, hold on. Let's open up Paint and I'll explain it to you that way, okay? Let's say this is a state, okay? And let's say in this state, there are going to be areas where there's like a lot of black people living in it, right? Let's say that black people live in the inner city area for the most part, okay? And they make up this much of the population of the state. And they are like heavily, densely populated in this area, the inner city area, okay? Now, the process of redistricting would either create equal shares and would evenly district it out in an effort to make sure that there's like proportional representation to a certain degree, and have like certain pieces like this where there's enough black people and enough Democrats that there's like democratic representation. But if you want, you can slice this cake any way that you choose to. And you can slice it in a way where it is the least opportune. Like you can do this, you can do this, okay? You can just like cut it in a way where you just take the black population and distribute it amongst all of the other areas where the white population specifically, or the Republican population specifically, is outnumbering the black population, allowing them never to get proper representation. Okay, you can do it in any shape that you want. And as a matter of fact, many of these districts, if you look at like Dan Crenshaw's district, you can look at is like, it looks like a patch because it's like this. They draw it like this, specifically taking pieces of the black population from different districts and putting it into an overwhelmingly white majority population in an effort to remove them from ever getting proper representation. And the total number of districts is based on the total population, so they can be very creative within that boundary. Not specifically about VRA districts, yeah, but easiest gerrymandering graphic ever. You got 50 precincts, is 60% blue and 40% red, okay? Let's say you got 50 total precincts. Ultimately, it comes down to a 60% Democratic population and 40% Republican population. If you chop it up this way, you will have 5 districts where every single district is majority Democrat. So you have 5 blue districts. If you chop it up this way with gerrymandering, you will have 5 districts and 3 are red and only 2 are blue. Do you want to save your work? No, I don't. Have you seen about the Defense Department confiscated all Pentagon reporters because they refused to sign? Yes, I did. I covered it. This is how it's done. This is how it's chopped up. Can you gerrymander your party to power? Gerrymandering is the intentional distortion of political districts to give one party an advantage and has been criticized for disenfranchising many voters and fueling deeper polarization. To help you understand it better, we created an imaginary state called Hexopolis, where your only mission is to gerrymander your party to power. Every 10 years, Hexopolis redraws its congressional district lines, just like the United States does. But Hexopolis is a simpler place. Lawmakers in either purple party or yellow party control redistricting. To increase their advantage in upcoming elections, they have been known to gerrymander egregiously, even if it means leaving some voters disenfranchised. Hexopolis has 9 districts. Even though a majority of the voters favor purple party, that does not mean that the yellow party can't shift the state's partisan tilt. First, here's how to draw a district. Each hexagon represents a person. Group 15 adjacent ones to make a congressional district. I just made a congressional district. Districts must have equal populations. Dividing 45 into 3 groups of 15 would give each district the same number of residents. Some, by law, must protect underrepresented voters. Some hexagons represent a voter who belongs to a minority group. No, oh my God, we're gaming. Oh my God, I just realized we're gaming. Oh my God. We are literally gaming on the broadcast. What is happening? What the hell is going on? We are straight up gaming right now. That's right. Gaming is back, baby. Hexagon represents a voter who belongs to a minority group in Hexopolis. A mostly minority district is one where more than half of the hexagons are this. Districts can lean yellow or purple. Purple is a voter who favors a purple party, and yellow is a favor yellow party. More than half the hexagons in 2 districts here lean purple. Try to make districts compact. Compact districts are usually shaped like circles or squares. Try keeping as many neighbors together as possible. Least compact, most compact, could be better. You are a yellow party legislator. Use all the hexagons to make 9 districts. Make as many majority yellow districts as you can. Make at least 2 mostly minority districts. Hexopolis currently has 2 such districts, and a state law calls for the number to stay the same if the makeup of the residents has not changed. Gain an edge by making compact districts. Snake-like district shapes will make your gerrymandering practices more conspicuous and could open you up to lawsuits, except no, it won't. You got red to filth. I bet after he's going to say, look, chat, I did gaming with Hexopolis. But I am. This is gaming. This is gaming. Okay, gerrymander for the yellow party. Okay, so there's only 2. There's only 2 yellows here, so it's going to be kind of difficult. It's going to be kind of difficult to do that unless I open it up to like a larger district here, and I don't know, maybe make it like I don't know. Wait, what is the black box mean outside of the hexagon? Your audacity knows no bounds. What do you mean? Yellow party. Oh, they're the minority population. Oh, okay, hold on. Here, we'll throw up some fucking lo-fi synth wave for you fools. A yellow Leninist utopia. This is not gaming. I think you're hoping, dude. So we need to do 9 districts. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, there we go. Bro, this is a vibe right now. Bro, this is I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know how to do this shit, dude. Wait, okay, I made 1. How do I make another one? You need to have 15 per district, dumbass. Oh, true. Okay. Wait. Did I accidentally? No, I made a purple district. Okay, there you go. That's it. There it is. Wait, what if it's a dual use district? You know what I mean? Okay, this is good. Okay, 2 more. Oh yeah, we're just gonna give it up for 1 like fat here. You stranded some hexagons. This will cause problems later when you can't incorporate them. I'll fix my map. You got to make 1 big purple. That's what I was trying to do, but I failed. Fake gamer can't even gerrymander is true, bro. Is true. I f***ed this up so bad. Wait, do they have to be linked to one another? No! Oh no, I can't gerrymander. No! This is racism minesweeper, dude. Just take 1 for the left on either side. Okay, we gotta fix this goddamn district, brother. So this would be like a purple one, I guess. No, that's too many yellows I'm missing. How do we cook the books, chat? What do we do? Can't we just make this an entire district in and of itself? Bro, this is a vibe right now, still taking an L. Don't you know how to pack and crack? No, I don't. This sucks. Hold on, let's just make a big purple one first of all, before I tackle any of this. Let's just make 1 purple district first, okay? Just all purple. All purple, okay? Put them all in 1 district. You feel me? Put them all in 1 district. Let's delete this. And then let's make another. Move it to get to top. Wait, what? Move it to get the top 4. Delete everything and make a bottom right be mostly yellow minorities with some purple towards the center. Yeah, we got to do like pack in here, right? But obviously in this direction. Okay, this is good. This is good. We got to do it like this, right? Like we're doing it now. We're doing the damn thing. We're doing the damn thing. This is the only minority majority district here, okay? But now, because of the minority redistricting, now we have 3 purple districts as opposed to good for your party, not so good for democracy. We had 6 yellow districts, 5 compact districts. Redo the bottom right, so 1 is mostly purple and 1 is mostly yellow. So in the original map that I had, if it wasn't for the pesky minority majority rule, I would have been able to put together an even more rigged map. But unfortunately, I couldn't. How does your map stack up? Your map had more majority yellow districts than 40% of all maps made by yellow party lawmakers. The highest possible is 7 majority yellow districts. I got 6 majority yellow districts. Among other maps that had the same number of majority yellow districts as yours, 34% of them had a higher number of compact districts. Not quite a high score. I could do better. I could get way more racist. Okay. Successful yellow party gerrymanders. Here are 12 maps that maximize political advantage for the yellow party made by other yellow party lawmakers like you. 7 out of 7 yellow districts, 8 out of 9 compact districts. Jesus Christ, dude. Getting cooked already. Hasan doing macros for the ounces for his chicken. Hasan trying to make yellow and purple 50-50. Okay, first of all, I still cooked. We still won. We literally still won. We won the election. Don't even come after me. We won it, and we're going to keep winning. Anyway, let's get back to the video, though.
In effect, by taking race...
I love the vote molestation that took place here, okay? I hate democracy. I hate representative democracy. I love testing the votes, okay? We can't stop winning. And we were one off in our district molestation.
Into consideration at all, you are discriminating against me, the white person, and that is against the Constitution. However, unfortunately, we do not live in a race-blind utopia where everyone has gained parity and the only difference in outcomes depends on how hard you work. If you can believe it, a few decades of laws protecting voting rights did not undo a few centuries of literal human bondage. Black people continue to live with the consequences of overt racism in housing, leading to less accumulated generational wealth, concentration into the cities, and low affordable housing stock, forcing them to live in less than ideal conditions, and then they get blamed themselves for the horrible conditions their landlords are responsible for, and so on and so on. Black people continue to live with the proven biases against them in hiring practices, violence against them enacted by the police, not to mention the day-to-day racism they have to endure from infancy through adulthood, whether it's the unconscionably high rates of infant and maternal mortality in Black populations compared to the rest of the population, or just the racist epithets thrown at people as they're trying to navigate the world. Not to mention intergenerational transmission of trauma, but Lord knows that's too many syllables for your average racist to understand. The point is, we have not arrived at a place where we can say race is no longer a factor and everyone is equal. Therefore, any consideration of race at all is racist against the other races. You don't get to rig the game for 200 years and then claim, well, now we've stopped discriminating, so everything is fine. And now if we keep talking about how we rigged the game for 200 years, that's actually discrimination against me. But that's exactly how the MAGA movement thinks. And so, returning to Louisiana v. Kalai, you have a group of non-African American voters doing just that, saying this new map is discriminatory against me because it took my race into consideration. And now the Supreme Court has the opportunity to rule that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is unconstitutional and undo all the protections it affords, much like they did in Shelby County v. Holder in 2013 when the Supreme Court did away with pre-clearance, which is a provision of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which required any new law regarding voting rights passed in states with histories of discrimination must first be approved by the Justice Department. Back in 2013, the court decided, hey, guess what? We've reached a place where we no longer need to control against these racist states. They've done their time. We've all moved on. And now our society is just and equal. Isn't that grand?
Yeah, no, totally. That's how it works, man. Pack it up. Racism is over. Duh. Let me be racist now, please.
And they did away with pre-clearance. And instantaneously, within hours and days and months, those historically racist states, well, what do you know? They passed new racist anti-voting.
What? How could that have happened? Oh my God, that's so crazy. I thought we had already abolished racism. This is so strange to me. I'm confused. I'm a confused voter.
Laws. Weird. It's almost like a few decades of the Voting Rights Act and undo a few centuries of literal human bondage. Wild. Like, we literally chained human beings to auction blocks and sold them to the highest bidder for centuries. We shoved them into boats and stacked them on top of each other like cattle. And then we made a thriving economy worth billions of dollars on the back of their free labor. Labor we never paid for. Labor that created wealth that white people still benefit from today. And then we fought a war and said, hey, you're free now, but no, you can't live there. You can't live there. No, you can't have a voice in your representation. No, you can't go to that school. No, you can't get a mortgage. No, you can't drive through that town after dark. No, you can't expect to live through the birth of your child. No, you can't get that job. But in MAGA world, we need to move on from that. Like, literally, why do you keep talking about it? Why do you hate your country so much? We passed an act about it. It's been 60 years. We moved on. Can't you just focus on the future? And the non-African American litigants in Louisiana v. Kalai are boiling it down to an oversimplified argument. Race was taken into consideration when drawing this map with 2 majority Black districts. That violates my equal protection under the 14th Amendment as a white person, and my right to not have my vote abridged on account of my race as a white person under the 15th Amendment. But that argument is disingenuous. There's a reason we look to the intent of the people who passed a law in order to determine how to interpret a law. Lawmakers cannot possibly anticipate anticipate every scenario that could possibly occur in relation to a law they are writing. It's not possible, and even if they tried, it would lead to writing of absurdly long, difficult to understand laws, and it would take so much longer to get those laws passed, and they still wouldn't fully be able to anticipate every possible instance when the law could be implicated. Because of this, we need the courts to step in when there's a controversy and tell us what the law means and how it is applied to this specific unforeseen set of facts. There are many ways courts do this, some of which depend on the case and some depend on the judge's ideology. You can look to the plain meaning of the words today. What does the dictionary say they mean? You can look to the meaning of the words at the time they were written. What does history tell us they were supposed to mean? And you can look to the underlying discussions on the congressional record and in other primary source documents that can help indicate, based on how these lawmakers discussed this law, this is likely how they would come out on this question, or they addressed this question in their debates, and this is likely how it would come out, etc. Each of these various modes of interpretation are helpful. In my opinion, strict adherence to any one of them is short-sighted because sometimes the way a word was defined when it was written doesn't square with today's reality, and so on. All laws are flexible and debatable and open to interpretation. If they weren't, every lawyer would be out of a job. Anyway, all that to say, it is deeply important to look at the context of laws and the Constitution to understand what the meaning is when applied to a set of facts, especially in this context where we are still very much dealing as a society with the consequences of slavery and racism. And the fact is that the 14th and 15th Amendments were not colorblind amendments. They were passed during a very specific part of our history, immediately after the Civil War, to right the wrongs of centuries of human bondage, and they ought to be interpreted as such as it applies to the Voting Rights Act. We have not solved the issue of racism in this country, and we will in many ways never fully heal the wounds that that level of horrific violence causes to a society. There are people alive now whose grandparents were enslaved by white people. White people don't get to turn around and tell them, all right, let's wrap it up, it's time to move on now. But the litigants in Louisiana v. Calais would have us believe that the writers of the 14th and 15th Amendment had them in mind when they were writing the amendments, and that their right to not give Black people an equal voice in voting is equal to or actually supersedes the right of Black people having an equal voice in voting. That in blocking their right to discriminate against Black people, the court is discriminating against them. They are also trying to paint a picture that the Voting Rights Act and the subsequent legislation and cases interpreting it create a simple rule where states are allowed to consider race when drawing district lines in favor of Black people, but not in favor of white people. The reality is that there is a complex web of guidelines and restrictions when it comes to drawing district lines under the Voting Rights Act that help ensure that the very thing I've been arguing for, that historical and present day contexts are taken into consideration, that the maps being drawn are truly equal and fair, to try to counterbalance the overt racism exhibited by states for centuries with regards to voting. It's not a simple blanket, we just give Black people as much power as possible. For example, a case called Thorburg v. Jingles established what are called the Jingles factors for bringing a Section 2 claim of voter dilution. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund created a helpful primer, which I'll link in the sources. Those factors are, quote, 1, the minority group must be sufficiently large and geographically compact to constitute a majority in a single-member district. 2, the minority group must be politically cohesive. And 3, the majority must vote sufficiently as a bloc to enable it usually to defeat the minority's preferred candidate. After considering all those factors,
your comment on the double snip Tony getting the BB interview was 100% on point. Turns out Barry Weiss personally arranged it. Bookers love Barry, says Dylan Byers. Barry watch. Barry Weiss continues to play lead booker at CBS News. In a meeting with the senior team at 60 Minutes this week, I'm told she proposed a package on the Gaza ceasefire and attempted to book Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, two co-architects of the deal. Meanwhile, she personally booked Bibi Netanyahu for Tony DeCoppel's interview yesterday on CBS Mornings. Bookings are table stakes in this business, of course, and they don't always drive viewership, a fact I noted when she landed Hillary Clinton and Condi Rice last week. That said, CBS stands to benefit from Barry's Rolodex of politicians, business leaders, and other members of the Sun Valley set. Most newsrooms' chiefs aren't so popular among the establishment. I told you. That's why Double Cirque Tony stayed behind for one extra day in Israel so that he could secure the coveted Benjamin Netanyahu Adolf Hitler interview. Okay? I told you. Wow, Barry watch. Watch that Barry go. Mike Johnson suggesting Dems will pack SCOTUS, which is currently packed by Trump. 3 appointments, 1 stolen, 1 drunk cry fest, 1 days before election. Suck it, Mike. Oh, I wish. Every day I go to sleep dreaming of a tomorrow where the Democrats behave a fraction as radical as the Republicans present them. Every day I beg. Every day I beg I close my eyes and I dream of a better tomorrow where the Democrats are the radical socialist, Marxist, Leninist vanguardists that Republicans present them as every day. Okay? I'm like, where are these far left Democrats? Kamala Harris was called a communist by Donald Trump. Every day I dream of a better tomorrow where the Democrats are actually packing the courts. Okay? God damn, dude. Could you imagine how much better this goddamn country would be? We have so much wealth in this stupid ass country. Okay? We have so much prosperity. We have so much opportunity, so much room for improvement, so much room for growth. Okay? And yet we squander it. We squander it every day at the behest of the almighty capital. Oh my God. And every damn day we move further and further into the depths of fascism. Richest country on the planet, and it's not enough. Okay? Yeah. Well, who was it? The Twitter user that said America's just two right-wing parties constantly calling each other communist. That's just so true. Kamala Harris calling Trump a communist. Trump calling Kamala Harris a communist. Meanwhile, one is a center-right party and the other one's a far-right party. Where's the communism? Can we get a crumb of communism, please? Just a crumb. Just give me a fraction of that good communism. Representative Auchincloss goes on Mark Elias and says Dems need to be more like Republicans on immigration. They're hopeless. Oh my God. Oh my God.
The court must then determine whether the plaintiffs bringing the claim have sufficiently proven, based on a totality of the circumstances, that minority voters, quote, have less opportunity than other members of the electorate to participate in the political process and to elect representatives of their choice. Additionally, courts tend to also require plaintiffs to show that, one, the challenged practice imposes a discriminatory burden on members of a protected class, meaning that members of the protected class have less opportunity than other members of the electorate to participate in the political process and to elect representatives of their choice. And two, the burden must in part be caused by or linked to social or historical conditions that have or currently produce discrimination against members of the protected class. This all must be proven by plaintiffs in order to win a case claiming that their vote is being diluted. There are clear, high...
Parenti posting, it is the heart of U.S. policy, ladies and gentlemen, to use fascism to preserve capitalism while claiming to be saving democracy from communism. And this is the gritty is the way, he said it. American politics is just two right-wing parties calling each other communist. It's true. I can't stand
that
it.
Must be passed in order to balance the competing interests of the state, of white people, of people of color, with the aim of actually ensuring equality, taking into consideration the centuries of inequality, and not simply to say, well, we're all equal now, let's not think of the past. Why can't we all just move on? And on Wednesday, the Supreme Court will have the opportunity to hear oral argument and make their own determination as to whether to take all of the previous precedent, the spirit of the laws, and the context of history into consideration, things that they claim to strongly adhere to in cases that benefit the conservative cause, or to decide it's time we all moved on from this whole race thing and just pretend everything's fine. You can listen to oral arguments live as they happen. They're around 9:30 a.m. DC time at the Supreme Court website or on C-SPAN. Sometimes the way the justices question the lawyers is pretty indicative of their feelings on the matter. And like I said, Chief Justice John Roberts seems poised to push for doing away with Section 2 on the grounds that it's unconstitutional. According to the Associated Press, Roberts, quote, has long had the landmark civil rights law in his sights, from his time as a young lawyer in the Reagan-era Justice Department to his current job. Roberts wrote the majority opinion in Shelby County v. Holder, the case that gutted pre-clearance, saying, quote, our country has changed, and while any racial discrimination in voting is too much, Congress must ensure that the legislation it passes to remedy that problem speaks to current conditions. We're all fixed. Nothing to...
Breaking via Wall Street Journal. The Trump administration is planning sweeping changes in criminal division at the IRS. The Trump administration is preparing sweeping changes at the Internal Revenue Service that would allow the agency to pursue criminal inquiries of left-leaning groups more easily. Oh my God, this is literally what they said Obama did. This is literally what they said Obama did. Kamala wanted to ban price gouging. Yeah. A senior IRS official involved in the effort has drawn up a list of potential targets that include major Democratic donors, some of the people said. The undertaking aims to install allies of President Trump at the IRS Criminal Investigative Division, or IRS-CI, to exert firmer control over the unit and weaken the involvement of IRS lawyers in criminal investigations, officials said. The proposed changes could open the door to politically motivated probes and are being driven by Gary Shapley, an advisor to the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. They fired the commissioner of the Large Business and Internation IRS business unit like 4 months ago for doing this law. What does this mean? I don't understand. Trump wants to use the IRS to go after big Democrat Party donors and try to find like inconsistencies in their tax filings and basically bully them with paperwork. Or in some instances, like, I guess in some instances, they could probably find like loopholes that in other circumstances, the IRS would like look the other way on or just not really prosecute. He could just like use that as an opportunity to go after people. Cause like a lot of, I think, super wealthy people in this country don't actually do the proper paperwork for a multitude of different reasons. One, because they're like engaging in the light version of tax evasion that is like often not prosecuted, or they are like they're doing shit that other people do all the time. But ultimately, it's just blackmail and leverage. Stephen Harper did a similar thing in Canada and absolutely cooked progressive NGOs. Good thing the IRS is defunded. True, but I'm sure they'll find they'll shake the couch cushions a little bit to find some money to do this in particular. This can be good. Finally, Dems will be forced not to be funded by billionaires. Dog, what are you talking about? Like, listen, I don't think that's what the outcome of this is going to be. I think the outcome of this is going to be every wealthy person that is already pro-Republican is going to be more pro-Republican, and they're not going to stop corruption. They're just going to move further and further into the right, firmly into the bosom of the right, while simultaneously it'll be like random people that are constantly getting audited, you know? Random people who are seen as like Antifa leadership will be consistently getting audited over and over again. Any Dem donor that big has the money to make everything legit on their taxes, if they do any tax evasion, which rich people talk about as a puzzle of sorts, means that they just have to dot their I's and cross their T's. Exactly. Yeah, I think this is more so to find anything in the paperwork to just like to apply extra scrutiny to, and then maybe seize their assets, you know? I mean, it doesn't have to be legitimate. Look at what they did to Lisa Cook. That's the other thing. That's true. They could just like fabricate shit. They don't necessarily need anything real. This will probably hurt, like, I suspect this will probably hurt like NGOs harder than like big ticket donors to the Democrats, because those guys probably already have their processes pretty, like, it'll be annoying for them. It'll be a nuisance for them to have like their team have to undergo audits and shit constantly.
To see here. But that being said, just in 2023, in a case called Allen v. Milligan, the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, held that a similar map in Alabama did violate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, with Roberts writing that Alabama was attempting to remake our Section 2 jurisprudence anew. In that case, Roberts and Kavanaugh surprised us all when they joined the liberal justices in finding against Alabama's map in that case. That could happen again. However, the fact that this case is being reheard this term indicates the court might be ready to shake things up, because they don't tend to do that very often. And in the Alabama case, they were looking at whether the map violated the Voting Rights Act, not whether the Voting Rights Act violates the Constitution. It could be that this re-argument more properly tees up the Voting Rights Act for a thorough constitutional question, giving the conservative justices a good whack at undermining the whole thing. After Wednesday's oral arguments, the justices likely won't issue a ruling for a while, though Louisiana has elections in April and so have asked the court to make a decision as soon as December or January in anticipation of that election. They could hold very narrowly that in this instance, this particular map from Louisiana isn't a good map, but the state can go and try to create a different one that more complies with Section 2 and the Constitution. Or they could make a broader ruling saying, actually, this isn't about this specific map. This is about how the entire Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is actually in violation of the 14th and 15th Amendments, and strike down the whole thing. A piece by Richard Hasen, professor of law at UCLA for Slate, lays out what would happen if the Supreme Court decides against the Voting Rights Act in this case. Quote, if the Supreme Court moves forward with this interpretation, it would be a sea change to voting rights law. It would be an earthquake in politics and make our legislative bodies whiter and our protection for minority voters greatly diminished. Even if the court less drastically says that Section 2 cannot be used to require the 2nd congressional district in this case, such a superficially more minimal ruling would mean the quick unraveling of most Section 2 districts. Because if the facts in Louisiana don't justify drawing a 2nd district, most other Section 2 claims would fail too. Quote, any decision to strike down what's left of the Voting Rights Act could kick off the start of a new civil rights movement and more serious talk of Supreme Court reform in the midst of crucially important midterm elections. Justices fundamentally hostile to the rights of voters place the court increasingly at odds with democracy itself. That is what's on the line this Wednesday during oral arguments. I'll be back with a new episode on Wednesday, and I'll let you know in that episode if there's any tea leaves to read in how the justices acted during arguments. Given the track record of this current court, I am not holding my breath for it to be good news. If you want the joy of supporting independent media, consider clicking the big join button here on YouTube or joining my Patreon community at patreon.com/Leeja Miller, where you'll find all of these episodes completely ad-free. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons.
The fear is the weapon. They aren't really all that. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I think fear is the weapon, but fear is the weapon for those who pay attention. I think their greatest weapon is not fear. Their greatest weapon is indifference. Indifference from the broadest subsects of American society to everything that's going on. They also get to overwhelm the population with like a million different things that they do, and make it so that people are too busy trying to pay attention to one thing and then they move on to the next. I've noticed that even someone like myself who stays on top of shit by design because it's my job, I constantly find myself having a hard time covering every single issue that's going on. Like they are hitting every angle. I mean, think about it. We got military deployments happening in major cities. We have mass ICE raids happening everywhere. We have the tariffs. We have 40 billion, not 20, 40 billion going to Argentina. The economy's at a standstill. We have the AI bubble that is here. Most of the gains, the overwhelming majority of gains being made is AI. Trump is trying to go to war with Venezuela openly. It's nuts. There are too many things to pay attention to. So I think a lot of people get overstimulated and refuse to pay attention to it.